Hi, Donald. Good to be with you today. It's been an honor and privilege working with you and your leadership team over the past several years. And I wonder if you just start by briefly telling us a little bit about you, your role, and Cap South Wealth Management.
It's certainly good to be with you, Todd. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of my story with you and maybe some people that might be interested in your services. My name is Donald Bolden. I'm the founder and currently the CEO of Cap South Wealth Management. My background before that is that I worked as I owned and operated a farm equipment manufacturing business for about 17 years. And when I sold that back in 92, I made the decision to start with Merrill Lynch. I started a career with Merrill, and I stayed there about 7 years. Having pretty much owned my own business most of my life, I knew that when I joined Merrill, I'd probably stay for a few years and make a decision whether I was going to split from Merrill, separate from Merrill, and form my own business. And that's what I did in 2001. It was a really good time because my son Marshall graduated from Auburn University about 2 weeks after we started Forum Cap South. And he joined us when he graduated. He's been with us ever since, and he's now president of the company and runs the company on a daily basis. So that's kind of the background of how we got started. Once we moved into Cap South, we've grown fairly steadily. We now have 21 employees. We cover a fairly wide area of the Southeast. We have 4 owners, in addition to myself and Marshall. My son-in-law, Anthony, works with us. He's an attorney, and Anthony oversees our 401k division. And then we have Carol Armstrong, who is our 4th owner. She serves as the chief financial officer, chief operating officer, and she's also the HR director. And she's done a tremendous job with us, and she's also on the board of directors. So that's an overview of who we are. Revenue-wise, Todd, we run about 4.1 million. That's what we're projecting our revenue to be this year. So we're relatively small investment advisor in terms of revenue.
Fantastic. So we've now had the privilege of working with one another for a couple of years. And I remember back when I first was introduced to you guys, you had gone through some wonderful successes and growing from success to success. And you're at a real crossroads, getting through a ceiling of complexity, as I recall. Can you share a little bit about what you recall of what you guys were going through at the time when we were first introduced?
It's been about 2 years ago. We were in a transition at that point. We originally had several managing directors overseeing offices or overseeing teams, and we were making the transition to where we didn't focus on office locations. We focused on teams that were serving clients throughout the Southeast. We really started looking at how do we transition the business away from being primarily driven by the lead advisor, the founder, and the CEO of the company. And for a lot of people my age, that's a challenge. How do you transition not only the clients, but how do you transition the business? How do you transition ownership? So we were dealing with just a lot of different factors. And we'd also been seeking to add new advisors, and we hired a few people, and have really not been that successful on just hiring based on our own research and our own skill set. Didn't prove to be very good. So we made a decision at that point to entertain offers or proposals from people like yourself. I was not on that group. Pretty much they narrowed it down and they said, okay, we think we're going to work with Todd. And that's when I first introduced, you and I were introduced. I felt real good about the conversation. I felt like we could communicate, and we've never looked back. We've been very pleased with the services.
I appreciate that, Donald. And, it was really interesting, as I recall, our initial conversations when Kara and Marshall were exploring Ron Carson's and others of the world, and zeroed in on me. And I just wonder if you can remember any specific qualities or aspects of my approach that might have convinced you that I was qualified for the job or the right person for the job.
I'm pretty sure that part of what I was impressed with is you ask good questions.
Hmm.
Some people in my business or in your business feel like that one of the most important things they can do is talk and educate people about how smart we are and how much we know and all of this, when the reality is we just need to really be able to ask good questions. And then we need to be able to respond to those questions and provide guidance and leadership to our prospects or to our clients, and not try to educate them on how smart we are. And the second thing is we felt like you really cared. So you ask good questions. We've got the impression that you really cared about us as a business and as an individuals. You didn't just see us as another potential client.
Thank you for that, Donald. Those were some great conversations, and I really enjoyed, our initial conversations and getting to know each other. And, I'm mindful of some of the challenges that you guys were facing back then, but I'm wondering from your perspective, what were some of the biggest challenges that you felt like Cap South was ready to go through or wanting to get through? And, can you recall how I may have helped you overcome some of those initially?
One problem that all of us have does it, it's not time oriented, it's not time related, it's just having an independent sounding board. When you're dealing with 4 owners and you're trying to transition not only ownership, but you're also trying to transition management. You're also trying to transition the oversight and the responsibility as the lead advisor on some of the most important clients we have. So you're dealing with 2 to 3 different issues that you're trying to communicate, trying to handle. Having an independent sounding board who is interested in our profession, knowledgeable about our profession, have other clients that do what we do, and you already educated us through the issues we face, was a real benefit for us. I wasn't necessarily convinced that we needed to do bring on a consultant, but I felt like that I needed to provide Marshall and Kara and Anthony the opportunity to say, yes, we need to entertain the idea of bringing in an outside consultant because we need some expert help. And I'm glad we did. Feel like it's really one of the best decisions we made over the last several years.
That's awesome. And yeah, I totally get it that, it was them raising, I think, the flags to say we need some help more than perhaps you were feeling like it at the time. It was necessary. And that's understandable. I think there are a lot of CEOs out there that are, they just not are as fully aware of what's going on within the company as they might think they are. But you really were flexible in that way. You really listened and opened your ears up to what they had to say and embrace the idea. But once you did decide and gave them the green light to move forward with me, I'm wondering, in your opinion, what stood out and has stood out the most in the way I've operated with you guys and worked with you all as a company, as a team, compared to maybe some others in the field that you might know or may have worked with in the past?
Well, I repeat what I've said earlier. One of the main things I feel like you do is ask good questions. You have not come to us and said, let me tell you how to do this thing. I'm an expert. I've dealt with other companies. Let me just tell you what you need to do. You generally, when you and I have conversations and when we have group conversations, you're not telling us what to do. You're asking questions and drawing each person out. And in the process of doing that, a lot of times the decision is made by the individual because you just guide that person into making that decision. You ask the questions to lead that person to make the decision. And in some cases, you've actually stepped out and said, this is what I feel like would be your best decision in this particular area. So guiding us through the process of whatever the topic is, but guiding us through the conversation, having the independent position to be able to talk to Marshall, say, Marshall, what do you think? What are you considering in this situation? All right, Donald, what do you think about this? And what's your perspective about this? And then Kara or Anthony, and being able to coach the 4 of us to make those decisions and do it in a manner that is very, very respectful to each person. And that's very important to me.
Fantastic. And I'm also mindful that sometimes when a consultant or a coach gets involved, especially in a team leadership team type of context, you can feel, perhaps just like another client. And I'm just wondering, is there anything about my approach that did you feel personally attended to? Do you feel like I've paid attention to you guys as a unique company and not just treated you as another client or like any client of mine?
Yes, I do. Not having had experience with other consultants, I can't compare you to somebody else, but I would tell you that if you asked me to do a call with a potential prospect of yours, I would emphasize the fact that I feel like you care about the company. You want to interview different people. I mean, you've had interviews with not only the four of us, but Jennifer Finsley, who is now on the board of directors, and she now oversees our entire private client division. You've had calls with probably, I'm going to guess you probably had calls with at least 4 or 5 other people in the company that you periodically communicate with that helped you in your overall perspective of the company, your overall view of what's going on. It's not my vision, it's not my view of what's going on, because a lot of times the CEO or the founder doesn't get the real truth from a lot of people, because they're always telling you what you want to know, and they're always telling you what they think you want to know. They won't be real truthful and honest and say, we need to sit down and have a hard conversation. They're able to do that with you. And that's been very helpful.
Thank you for that, Donald. And do you believe that our collaborative efforts through the past couple of years have aligned with your overall goals?
Yes, I certainly do. We made a lot of progress, and I can remember when I was first contemplating, previously in the last couple of years, I was overseeing the private wealth division, and Jennifer was overseeing just a typical wealth management division. As I have approached my mid-70s, you realize you can't do this forever, and of course, we've known that for a long time. It's always, well, this is what I'm gonna push off. This is what I'm gonna do that later. And as I really came to the point this year of really fully realizing that I was ready to go ahead and step back, and we discussed the possibility of elevating Jennifer to overseeing all the private client work, which means in essence, she oversees the work I do. Having you as a sounding board that I could start with you and I could say, Todd, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I think this needs to be transitioned. And between conversations with you and Marshall and Kara, before we even approached Jennifer with it, you have to be worked through whether I felt like what are the pros and cons of doing that. And even though I was pretty confident that I wanted to do it, I felt like it was the best step forward. It's nice to have the outside person looking in and saying, yes, I think it's time for that. I think you're ready for it. And I think Jennifer can handle that. And so that was probably the most important decision we've made under your guidance and during the time we've been with you on the coaching. Major decision not only for Jennifer, major decisions for me as I transition away from being less and less involved with the direct client responsibilities, and certainly more beneficial for the company, for the long-term survival of the company past my death or disability.
That's wonderful to hear. And I'm mindful a lot of times when I get involved in a company, they oftentimes express concerns about capacity and structures and needing to rearrange some things and so forth. And some of that stuff was certainly relevant in your situation as well. But, I'm a big believer if you get the right people in the right seats on the bus and you create the right alignment, and then you surround that with the right type of structures, like in business meetings and things like that, you can accomplish amazing things. You don't necessarily need somebody to come in and tell you all the details. You probably have the capacity to do that internally, again, with all those pieces of the puzzle working together. Kind of expounding on that last question, were we as a team able to accomplish a good bit of that type of thing? Getting the right seat, you spoke to Jennifer a bit, but getting the right people in the right seats, getting that alignment within the team, and then turn that into alignment with the structure of the company?
I believe we were. I believe we made significant progress on that. And as I've told Jennifer on a number of occasions, I feel every day that I work with her under this arrangement, I am more and more convinced that we made the right decision. I'm seeing Marshall step up, take more leadership responsibility, shifting more to him and less to me. And we just have a very, I guess everybody in my position thinks your people are the best, but I am convinced we have some of the very best team members. We've got some young people coming up that are absolutely tremendous. They're growing into their positions. We really have a good group of people. And I think the steps we're taking, and of course, when I say steps we're taking, you've been very instrumental in helping us finalize these steps and explore these steps. And the steps we're taking is going to be providing these people, these very interested and motivated team members, it's going to provide them an opportunity to grow and to excel and to grow in the business and not have to leave us and go somewhere else. And I think that's a key component of what we've been able to do over the last couple of years.
Awesome, Donald. And I just have a couple more questions for you real quickly here. So if you were talking to somebody contemplating hiring me as a coach, as an executive and leadership coach for their company, how would you describe the value of the services that I provide, the things that I do? I know that you've expressed a good number of things in so many words, but what else would you say about that to somebody you were talking to?
I would say something very simple. Todd, we ask wealthy clients who might be worth 15, 20, $30 million. We ask them to hire us as a consultant. Consultant is an advisor who may be just doing portfolio management, but we want them to trust us on being able to manage a portfolio. Or if I'm managing $10 million, they may be paying me $80,000 a year. If I'm doing a complete private wealth client type of engagement or complete engagement, which deals with us overseeing the umbrella of their estate plan. We want to do family meetings. We want to help you transition. First of all, I want you to help you identify the legacy of your life and what you've built. We want you to retain us to help you communicate that to the next generation. And the client sits there and says, oh, no, I don't need that. I can do it all by myself. I've got to convince that client or that prospect that we can help them in a manner that they can't do it themselves. If we're not successful in that, we're not going to be successful as an advisory firm. When I looked at retaining you or any consultant, I asked myself that question. If I want other people to trust me as an advisor and a consultant to all their wealth, oversee it all, meet with the family, talk about the legacy, talk about the family transitions of wealth, and then I'm not willing to entertain a consultant. What's wrong with that picture? I'm asking other people to trust us as the advisor, the portfolio manager, the investment advisor, the wealth manager, the family, transition manager, whatever you want to call us. And I'm not interested in talking to you as a consultant that you might help us. I realize that's a little bit of a challenge for me to say, why would I not entertain a consultant who specializes in helping us figure out what we're doing the same way that I position our services to a wealthy client, saying, we feel like we can be a benefit to you, and this is how we can benefit you, your family, and generations to come.
That's fantastic. And that analogy is so great because, while you feel like your relationships with your clients are so intimate in the fact that it's involving their finances and their family and all that, The same is true for you and your business. It's very intimate. It's your family, it's your finances, it's your identity as a founder of the company that poured a lot into it through the years to get it to where it is today. And I certainly find it a privilege and an honor to be brought in at that level of trust. And I appreciate you bringing that up. So as we close this out, Donald, is there anything else that you feel like would be important to share with somebody that's just listening to this going, should I talk to Todd? About your experience with me or any aspect of our work together.
I'd probably sum it up, and I've touched on this, but if you ask me kind of to sum it up, I would say probably that you've been very instrumental in helping us build more of a team approach, getting people on board, buying into the vision, buying into the goals that we have, helping us build a team that's unified together, seeking to accomplish one unified goal and a more strategically well-organized process. So to me, I give you credit for helping us bring this together, getting it organized and getting us focused on what's important and keeping us focused on that. So that would be my summation. And I would close it also with one comment that I don't currently see us getting to a point where we say, Todd, okay, we're finished with you. We'll see you later. Hope you get another client. I see you having a part in our company long term. I'm not sure the role will always be the same, but you have a view of the industry that is good, and it's a perspective we don't have. So I would anticipate still being on your call list 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road if I'm still here.
I love to hear that. And, I often feel like with my clients, I've become a part of the team in so many ways, and I certainly take it that personal. So again, I am grateful for your time today, Donald, and for what you've shared with those out there listening. This is really helpful. I'm sure they find it helpful. And it's just, again, been a pleasure working with you and continuing to work with you.
Been a pleasure working with you, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts with any potential clients you might have. So